Hello, welcome back to this long-running series where I just talk about my improvements in my vision. People said, oh, Andrew, you haven't been posting in a while. Are you dead? No, not really. I've just sort of been doing other things. Kind of get sidetracked. Like, you can't just make vision improvement your whole life. With that said, it doesn't really leave you that easily. I mean, it's a big deal to me at least. And just because I'm not making videos or something, doesn't mean I've forgotten about it in the slightest. Although I have gotten lazy. So since the 22nd of November, I have been notoriously lazy with improving my vision. There was at least a period of a solid 3 months where I just wasn't going outside whatsoever. I was just staying inside, being a little, turtle, living inside my little crab shell, just playing games and stuff, not really doing much. It is what it is. I don't think I'll be as lazy going forward, but that's just what happened. I also, and if I don't mention this like every episode, then I'm sure something bad would happen. But yeah, I did kind of reduce a little bit quickly again at one point. I believe it was just November, December sometime. I did reduce a little quickly. I don't even know anymore. Safe to say, reducing too quickly just seems to be a bit like it's part and parcel of this whole process. But more importantly, if you do it, you'll reduce too quickly, right? But you don't like bump your prescription back up to something stupidly high. You've still made a lot of improvement. You're just redialing where to start again from. So I'm just gonna say I don't know when I did it, but it was not a big deal. I think I did it for like 2-3 weeks or something. Whatever. So yeah, it will happen to you. I think, even after 2 years, it's really hard to shake this pressure inside of you that you want a number to go down faster. And it's taken me like 2 years to break the psychological conditioning that I just want to improve my vision faster than I can actually improve my vision. But the conditioning is breaking. And it's cliche, but if you do make it about the process instead of the number you're at, you're going to have a much better time. All right, so last episode, I think I was saying I was wearing 375 and 275. Like I said, there was like a 90-day period of not doing anything. So that's like 3 months just wasted. I have been wearing this reduction and doing things the way I'm supposed to for 30 days as of today. Cool stuff, right? Maybe I should reduce, but I'm not going to. I think it's time to break habit. I'm going to give it another 2-3 weeks with this reduction, and then I'll be reducing to 325 and 250, which is a binocular drop. So equalizing, is that being successful? Yeah, it is being successful. The centimeter measurements have improved. I can see an eye chart better, but most importantly, the gold standard for me at least is, can I go outside and can I see things more clearly? And is it easier to see clearly? How much do I have to make my eyes do things? Active focus, as it were. And yeah, all of those things have improved. All three of those metrics. It's like a triple whammy. Obviously, when I started this, I'm massively excited, don't get me wrong. But it does become a bit ordinary at the same time. Like, you do get used to the fact that, yeah, it does work. You just keep going through it. And it's awesome, isn't it? Interestingly enough, when I started all of this stuff, my diopter gap, so the difference between both of my eyes, was 125. And I was wearing a diopter gap of 1, the difference of 1. So before I equalized with these glasses, it was 375, 275. But on my centimeter measurements, my diopter gap was still coming through as a 125. Now that I'm equalizing with this pair of glasses, which is a 0.75 gap, my centimeter measurements are now saying there's a diopter gap of 1. So it seems like there's a lagging indicator going on there. My centimeter measurements are like 0.25 behind what my glasses say they should be. Really, I only need to equalize 2 more times. Jake has said if you go to 0.5 diopter gap, at that point, like if you're going to low myopia with 0.5, you're going to be fine. A lot of people naturally have a diopter gap like that anyway, so it's not really noticeable. So yes, moving forward, just 2 more equalizing pairs along this journey, this trek, and then I'm done. Ultimately, most of my reductions are going to be binocular. I know there's a diverse range of people who will watch a video like this and wonder like what I'm doing that's so magical or something. I would honestly say a big tendency I see in newcomers to all of this stuff. Like, I stalk the Discord and the forum and everything, Facebook. A big problem I'm seeing a lot of the time is people overcomplicate this process a lot more than it needs to be. Like, there'll be a lot of comments about peripheral vision, comments about like how you move your head, um, comments about like UV blocking glasses, blue light blocking glasses. I think complications only serve a purpose if they make a difference. And a lot of the time, I'm not really convinced by some of the write-ups I see where people talk about loads of different concepts, which I don't really feel make a difference. Like, if you've just worn glasses for 10 or 13 years, you will just lose the ability to accommodate objects at further distances away because your glasses are doing everything for you. People who don't wear glasses don't have that problem because they actually still have to work to see properly. So when you rethink active focus, instead of thinking of it as some sort of weird imaginary thing that only some weird internet people online are telling you about, instead it's just like a two-word term for something that everyone does already. Some of the people I've talked to who have perfect vision, they say, you know, sometimes there is something in the distance and they have to try and see it. That just seems like a layman's definition of active focus. If peripheral vision helps with finding active focus, that's great. Any construct to make that easier, that's fine. But ultimately, it's just the same thing. There's a ciliary muscle inside of your eye, and you need to make the light rays converge slightly in front of it, and then the axial length of your eye decreases. That's it, ultimately. I think a lot of different techniques just like they all kind of converge on the same point. This is the crux of vision improvement. There is a larger eye inside of your eye and you're trying to do something to make that smaller, and we're using a natural mechanism to do that. In my beginner's guide video, I outlined the 4 fundamentals, as I call them, for improving your vision. And the only reason those 4 fundamentals are there is because you have to do those 4 things specifically to actually improve your vision. Like, I don't do anything outside of those fundamentals. To elaborate a bit more, if you're not wearing differentials for close-up work, or well, it's not really that. You can wear whatever you want, but just don't wear full-strength prescription glasses for close-up. That's a really big problem because then you're doing the mechanism in reverse. You are increasing your axial length of your eye. So whatever progress you would make would be undone. So good close-up habits is important. That was one of the fundamentals. Active focus is just like, once you know how to do it, you don't have to think about it anymore. That fundamental's like ticked, it's done, forget about it. You're going to do it anyway. And active focus obviously ties into the other 2, which is, firstly, make sure you're wearing the right pair of glasses. If you reduce too much, your life is going to be very nasty, and I think it really hinders progress. And furthermore, the hardest thing to get right, really, because everything else is theoretical, but the practical side of things is you do have to go for daily distance vision walks, let's say, or however you get it anyway. It doesn't make a difference how you get it, but it's important that you do it. So another kerfuffle that I went through in this 90 days period where I did nothing and I just stayed indoors and like played Team Fortress 2 or whatever, I was thinking that my eyes were improving when they weren't. And that makes sense, actually. A lot of people say, hey, why do you need to go for distance vision walks when you can just active focus on your screen and you can improve your eyes that way? Can't I just do print pushing and stuff like that? And that's like obviously a fair enough question to ask. So that's what I did, like unofficially, not like I officially set out to do this for 90 days, but I wore my differentials. I basically played games for 90 days. Okay, I didn't just play games, but a lot of it was just like a lot of YouTube, okay? Loads of YouTube. But yeah, couch potato for 90 days. And I wanted to believe, oh wow, my eyes have improved without any of the distance vision. And I was checking my centimeter measurements. I was measuring with my naked eye. Now the trouble with measuring with the naked eye is that, well, let's take this tape measure. If you know how the diopter equation works, I did a video on this. But it basically, a tiny change in your centimeters of like 0.5 can drastically change your myopia level when you put it through the equation. Determining the edge of blur when you're doing centimeter measurements, as anyone who's actually done that will tell you, it's already quite like finicky as it is, like judging the exact point at which it becomes blurry or clear. But add on to that, you've just got measurement error. Like your hands will shake, you'll move the tape measure slightly further back or slightly whatever. And those tiny little centimeters make a huge difference to your actual diopter result in the end. So I started measuring with differentials again. And that's a lot more accurate because you have a lot more leeway in getting it wrong or getting it right. It removes a lot of measurement inaccuracy. So I found that when I was measuring with the naked eye, I thought I had made improvements by just looking at the screen all day instead of getting distance vision. But the second I started measuring with differentials, it just slapped me around the face and said, no, you haven't made no improvements. I'm not saying it's impossible to improve with just close-up time, but if there is a way, I really haven't cracked it yet. And I think ultimately it's just better to stick to what everyone agrees works really effectively, which is distance vision. So yeah, good close-up habits, wearing the right pair of normalized, distance vision, and then you've got active focus by this point. Just hopefully you got active focus. It took me a month to find it. And I did actually log that a long time ago as well. So yeah, overcomplications, I'm not a huge fan of those. I'm massively fond of Jake's practical, at times, and to the point stance on, well, this is kind of what the science says, and this is kind of what you need to do, and we're sort of just approaching this from a biological perspective instead of more of a fluffy, maybe ephemeral and spiritual side of things. And I think that sort of reasoning is going to lead to more adoption in the end because it's quite secular and it doesn't rely on a different worldview to be put into someone before they start doing this. I think it was easier for me to come into something like Endmyopia because it seemed more concreted, whereas other takes on how things work seems a bit like you have to believe, like you have to chant to your eyeballs every day that your vision will improve, or you have to do obscure drills like back and forth rocking sort of Bates method stuff. And my question is, okay, what does the science say? And how does this tie into what the method says to do? I'm beginning to almost see a future where I don't need to wear differentials. According to the centimeter measurements and according to my personal experience, my left eye is honestly more like minus 250, even though I have never worn those lenses. I'm not going to question how that works, but it's a fairly consistent trend that it's a minus 250 eye, so at the moment I'm just accepting it, whatever. I mean, yeah, the title of the video will say minus 275, so I'm not like inflating results, but that's just what the measurements say. Anyway, with minus 250, doing the maths again, that should give me a distance to blur of 40 centimeters, and I am sort of beginning to feel that when I'm like using monitors and stuff. Like I am seeing the need for differentials less. Obviously it's only in one eye, so it's limited in scope, but I can only see that my dependence on differentials is going to decrease as I go on and on through this process, and it's really exciting to say the least. Another thing I want to say is that I finally, after ages, reduced my differentials. I was wearing minus 2 and minus 1. I'm now wearing minus 125 and minus 0.5 in my left. And yeah, it's honestly a side note. It doesn't make much difference. It just means I don't have to be as far back from the screen as I was. Due to my diopter gap, I couldn't just reduce differentials every time, so I had to stick with the same pair and just move my head further back. But honestly, I have found no problems with this approach whatsoever. Differentials are not where your improvement comes from. Differentials are just for reducing strain at close-up and making sure your neck isn't in a really uncomfortable position. Some people have literally not used differentials and they've come down from -5 and they never touch differentials. Like, you can do that, that's a choice. You can do that. But why? Like, you wouldn't want to do that because that's like a distance to blur of 15 centimeters. So you're really gonna have to be pressing your head close to the screen, and it's really like not a good idea. You know, I'm a fan of simplification, as this video will tell you. So if you don't want to use differentials, that's ultimately your prerogative. It doesn't actually stop you from improving if you don't use differentials. It just makes your life kind of miserable. The only thing that will stop your progress is wearing full strength glasses for close-up. Then you're in real trouble. I've said all I wanted to say. Equalising is going good. I will probably reduce again in another 3 weeks from now, and that will... Could you stop going off? I'll be reducing again in probably around about 3 weeks' time. I am reducing faster than the typical rate of reduction. Jake says 90 days for a 0.25 reduction. If I reduce in 3 weeks from now, that will be a 51 days reduction instead of a 90-day reduction. That's a significantly faster rate of reduction. With that said, it's worked in the past, and I'm really just following the evidence, not going too fast, not going too slow either. I've done both of those mistakes, so I'm trying to find the happy middle ground. I'm going to have a lot more time to create more videos coming up. I would really appreciate it if you're watching this, if you got to this point, if you got to the point in this video, I would really appreciate your ideas for new content on this channel. Thanks for hanging around. I'll see you in the next one.
諦めんなよ。諦めんなお前。どうしてそこでやめるんだ、そこで。もう少し頑張ってみろよ。ダメダメダメダメ、諦めたら。周りのこと思えよ。応援してる人たちのこと思ってみろって。あともうちょっとのところなんだから。俺だってこのマイナス10度のところ、しじみが取れるって頑張ってんだよ。絶対やってみろ。必ず目標達成できる。だからこそ、ネバーギブアップ。